Welcome to Family Matters, Legal Edition, a special monthly segment of the Business of Family podcast. I'm Tammy Buss, family business advisor and founder of BlueRoots.
And I'm Yola Ventresca, managing partner at Lerners LLP. Together, we're diving into the legal issues that impact family businesses, from succession and shareholder agreements to conflict resolution and governance.
Whether you're in the founder's seat, part of the next generation, or advising a family-run company, this series is here to help you navigate the legal side of legacy with clarity and confidence.
Join us every third Tuesday of the month for real talk, real stories, and practical legal insights.
Because in family business, the law isn't just about protecting assets, it's about protecting relationships. So welcome, everybody. This is the launch of our new podcast.
So exciting.
I know. The Business of Family, Family Matters Legal Edition. Very exciting. This is going to be launched in September, and it's going to be the third Tuesday of every month. And I'm going to have a co-host now. So instead of just Tammy Buss co-hosting, I have a new co-host. Maybe I'll let you introduce yourself.
I am Yola Ventresca. Big fangirl of Tammy Buss. Maybe I'll say that as my first line. I am the managing partner and equity partner at Lerners Law Firm here in London. Offices in Toronto and Strathroy.
Really, really excited to have Yola part of this.
Thank you so much for having
podcast. It's very exciting.
Thank you so much for having me.
And you know what? You've been on our show before.
I have, and we had such a wonderful time together.
Yeah, we thought we got to launch this new podcast talking about the legal side of family business, because there's so many issues revolving around families and business, whether it be government issues or governance issues, conflict resolution, succession planning, shareholder agreements. There's so much. And I think sometimes we overlook that as a family business.
Yeah. And I really do think that this is so timely because, I've come to know Tammy very recently, and we found it remarkable how often the work that she's doing in helping family businesses intersects with the work that we do at Lerners in helping family businesses with the legal side of the work. So,
and it's really the backbone. I mean, any business, the legal structure is the backbone, and the issues that come up. But when you throw in family on top of that, it's very complex.
Right. And I think to that point, legal issues in a family-run business are often overlooked or not discussed.
Right.
Sometimes because of the very nature of the business and because it is family.
It's family
that you're dealing with.
You don't think you have to get something legally binding between us because, we're family. We're always going to be family.
That's right.
But, unlike a partner who's not a family member, if you have a dispute or you walk away, you don't have to see them again. But when you're a family member and you have an argument, you might have to go home and have dinner with them.
That's right.
Or see them at the next family gathering, right?
Or Thanksgiving or Hanukkah or whatever it is.
And I do also think, as a family business advisor, and you might agree with me on this, that we assume certain things.
That's right.
Because they're family, I assume they know what I'm thinking and, and what my intention was. But we don't tend to communicate that openly, or we'll mention it to one member of the family, but not everybody in the family.
Yeah, that's very true. I think that there is this, if I'll take the sibling contacts, you think that your siblings so well and how they're going to react to certain things or how they might handle certain challenges. But then when the rubber hits the road and your expectations are not the reality that you see in front of you, and you have no structures in place,
right? What
do you do? And you and I have spoken about this, the implications of things not going as you planned are much higher. The stakes are much higher in the family business context because not only do you risk the loss of a business partner, but it can have, it can cause irreparable harm to those relationships as well.
Absolutely. It can blow apart your whole family.
That's right.
And, it doesn't matter how large the business is or how large the estate is. Communication and clarity is so important.
Absolutely.
And you can't, tell somebody your intentions after you've passed away.
That's right.
And I have a family that I'm working with that is 4, and it's not a large business, but when we do discovery, we're asking questions to the 4 members of this family, and not one of them was aligned.
Very interesting.
And you're thinking, don't the spouses even talk?
Yeah, very interesting, but not surprising, right?
They assume, we're going to it's going to be equal. Well, no, it's not. It's going to be to the one who's working in the business.
That's right.
Or even the estate part. Well, this is my intention, but it's not written down anywhere, and you've not communicated with everybody. So I think this is really important. My point is that this podcast, Family Matters Legal Edition, is so important for so many ways.
I agree. And one of the biggest things that we talked about, we've alluded to it already, is that we want to protect the relationships and not just the assets.
And so in this podcast, we're going to be talking to experts in their fields.
Yes.
We're going to have some real case scenarios that we're going to go over, which is fun.
Fun, very
exciting. Fun. And we're going to take all the legal jargon out, I think, and just talk about it in plain, easy to understand language. Because I'll tell you, I wasn't an English major, but when I look at the sentences in legal contracts, those are pretty much run-on sentences. Don't they go on for like a whole paragraph?
Yeah, I don't think that the grammar fanatics out there would be too happy with the legal community.
No, it's so confusing.
It is.
So we're trying to, debunk all those myths. Right. We want to have some real live cases that maybe are timely.
Yeah.
And I know we've got a really interesting one coming up we can talk about. So let's maybe get to just a little bit about who we are in a little more detail, just for the listeners who maybe don't remember who I am, or get to know you a little more. Sure. And so by doing that, we actually have a third person who's going to somewhat interview us today.
Yes.
So
welcome,
Nicole.
Welcome, Nicole.
Thank you very much.
Who's not on camera, by the way, and I don't know why that happens. She's like behind the scene, like the producer. They always talk from behind the glass.
All right. I'm going to start out with Tammy. Your first question is, what inspired you to start BlueRoots?
Well, that's a very good question. So BlueRoots is my family advising business. And for the last 40 years, I've been working with family businesses. They weren't necessarily family businesses at the time. They might have been a one individual starting out and then grew into a business. So a sole proprietor who grew into a larger business. And I've sort of changed and morphed with them. As they grew in the business, I grew with them. And that could be hiring their first employee, benefits, saving for kids' education, all along that path. But, look at my gray hair and look at my clients, and we're, 60s, 70s, and it's time to sort of figure out what to do next. So I've decided to 100% of my time focus on family business advising, and having struggled with my own transition, to realize that there's not a lot of help out there for first generation family businesses. Yeah. And what I did understand and sort of see from the outside was every family that was transitioning, succession planning, estate planning, all had the same issues, right? Didn't matter the business, didn't know the type of the business or the size of the business. It was the same issues. Yeah, so that's what I spent.
It's a human experience. There's a predictability to the way one comes to it and the way it hits you as a human being, no matter what the size of the business or how long you've been doing it.
And so the BlueRoots, people say, where'd you come up with BlueRoots? Like, it has nothing to do with family business advising. Blue is the color of calm. It's also, a lot of our businesses are in the blue collar market. So they started off, in manufacturing or plumbing or electrical. And the roots is the roots of the family and the roots of the business. Yeah. So very calming. Yeah. So that's where BlueRoots came from.
Wonderful imaging there.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you.
And Yola, how did you get into law, and more specifically working with family-owned businesses, or your interest in doing a podcast on family businesses?
So just how I got into law, I've always been really interested in people's stories. And I think Tammy would probably say the same thing. How someone ended up where they are, how they built something. I find that really fascinating. And I truly enjoy the part of my job that helps me support people in their endeavors. Whether it's scaling up, and we do that through helping them expand their corporate structures or their employment contracts. So I've always been really interested in the human element of law. It's the people and that interaction with people that, I do love the law from an academic perspective, but having that person in front of you saying, I have a problem, and my being able to say, let me help you with that. Let me take some of that burden off your shoulders. That's right. That's really the part of the law that I love the most. Family-owned businesses are very unique creatures, and I think one of the reasons I was really drawn to Tammy is that she really understands the kind of unicorn nature of a family business, and I would say that I do too. I love the dynamics of family, of this unit of people who have spend their lives together making something together. And I'm surrounded by family businesses in my own family, and see firsthand the various dynamics at work there that can help and hinder, I think, the business. So I really do enjoy that. I come from a family of four siblings. I have 3 other siblings, so I do understand how people might not be aligned all the time. Let me just put it that way.
There's a bit of family dynamics.
Yeah, a little bit of family dynamics. So, so that's really what got me into the family-owned business space, Nicole.
Great. Now, in relation to that, Tammy, what's one common challenge you see in family-run companies that often gets overlooked?
I think governance, really, and that comes down to the legal element, because I think as a first generation, and I'm primarily dealing with first, second, and third generation family businesses, is that we've never, first of all, you don't think of it as a family business, for one thing, something that could be passed on.
Yeah.
You start it because you need to pay the bills. All of a sudden, someone from your family's working for you, now you've got a family business. But that succession plan, there is no real plan because you haven't done it before. So what I found, again, working with individuals who became family businesses over the years, is that there was no structure in place to figure out how to sell it, how to bring family members in, and how you are going to distribute that from an estate perspective. So for me, it was sort of that, helping them understand what I didn't know. So you don't know what you don't know.
That's right.
And that was what I love is that, how can I solve a problem? How can I help you?
That's right.
Make a decision.
That's right.
And that's really why family businesses, because again, it's so complex that, if you're a partner is a stranger and you break up, they're gone. But families by themselves are difficult, and having a business is difficult. And when you put them together, it's like over 10 times more complicated. And I like that. I like a challenge, and I like working through that.
Yeah, so do I. The other thing that I will add is that Lerners itself was a family-owned business of sorts, because it was 2 brothers who started this law firm together post-war in London. There was rampant anti-Semitism at the time, and they banded together and really created a solid base of loyal clients, many of whom were family businesses in the city, who wanted to support these Jewish brothers, and from there built what is now 130 person law firm in under 100 years. So
amazing.
It's quite amazing, and it's quite personal.
And people don't think,
I
think of that as a law firm, as a family business.
No, I don't think they do. And the structure has evolved over years, of course, but at its roots, no pun intended, at its roots, it was a family business, and so I don't think we've ever lost sight of that.
Well, you build.
Yes, that's right.
You build on those values, right?
That's it.
And it's a little bit different, I think, when you're a family business. And that's one of the things we try to talk to our clients about, is that it doesn't have to continue in the same way that it was built. It needs to evolve. Like, don't become a blockbuster.
Yeah.
Right? You need to evolve, and the business can evolve. I can't say that word. Evolve. And with other family members as part of it, or bringing on third party. Right? There's lots of opportunities for that succession. Transition planning.
Well, what do you wish more families knew about the law and how it applies to their business?
I'm going to answer that question a little differently. I wish more families thought about the law and their businesses.
Good answer.
And I wish they thought about it before they needed it. Because oftentimes it's the case that these family businesses don't seek out counsel until they hit a snag. And
the horse is already out of the barn.
That's right. And so what I wish they knew is that equally as important as getting your corp in place and having an accountant and, the financial side of things is having that legal structure there upfront, investing in it so that you're not having to lay out perhaps, more money than you might need to if something were to go wrong or when something goes wrong. Something's always going to go wrong. Something's always going to go wrong.
I think that, to be the devil's advocate here, it's always easier said than done, because when you start your business, you're just, like I said before, you're just trying to pay the bills.
Oh, absolutely.
You don't think of it as that. And you've got some family and some friends helping out. And then you don't have contracts or job descriptions because everybody's doing everything. And then you turn around and you've got, 20 people and you don't have job descriptions.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, well, we've managed to do it without.
Yeah, that's right. And there's absolutely no shame or judgment or that I'm trying to portray or instill in that comment, that I wish that people just thought about it, because unless you are a lawyer and we're an odd breed and you're thinking about it all the time.
You said it, I didn't.
I fully own it. You're thinking about risk all the time and legal risk all the time. It really doesn't occur to people, and you're usually caught up in a very exciting endeavor that you're working 24/7 at, and you're working alongside people that you trust and that you know very well. And so, of course, it's going to be the last thing that occurs to you.
Absolutely.
But that's the point of the podcast.
And you're so busy.
That's right.
That you don't have time to focus on the business because you're so involved in the business. And one of the things, I talk about a lot is basic things like job descriptions for not just the owner, but the siblings and the family that's in the business, because they just tend to come on and help with everything. But I often say, well, if you weren't here and you need to hire somebody to replace you, what is your job description?
Really, really great question.
And they're like, ooh. And how do you keep accountable?
Stares there.
Yeah. And when you go to second generation, and you brought in one of your children, they've been there for 20 years. I mean, I say children, half the time these children are 40 and 50 years old. But, when you say, well, how can you be accountable to your other siblings when you don't have a job description?
Right.
So it's not the legal that you're protecting from being sued or a breakup. It's just protecting from those family squabbles, because anybody else, if you were hired or went into a company, would you not have a job description so you knew what you're responsible for?
Right.
And we tend not to have those with family members. And I'm guilty. I can tell you that. You just don't. You don't have your own job. I don't even have a resume. I've never needed one.
Well, I mean, because it's exactly what you said. You're doing everything. You're doing everything all at once. And so if you were to write down, I'm sure, your current job description and tried to hire for it, somebody would probably run for the hills, because I told them how many hours you work a week and what you...
Oh, and by the way, I have to wipe up the spills,
That's right, yeah.
Wash the floor.
Perfectly understandable. And this is not meant to, we don't mean to present this series as some type of way of saying, oh, you should tisk, you should have done X, you should have done Y, and it's too late now. We're saying there is time. This can be done at any time. Think about it. Ideally it happens at the beginning, but if not, we can still work with that.
What do they say? When's the best time to plant a tree? 20 years ago? What's the second best time? Today?
Now. That's right. That's right.
Tammy, let's address the elephant in the room of all family businesses. Tell me more about communication and how it can get overlooked, and what would be your piece of advice to help family businesses with that issue?
Well, that's about 10 podcasts right there. Communication is the big thing. We talked about, well, we're always talking. Yeah. I actually had a call this morning with one of my families, and they said, well, they always have meetings. They have a meeting every week. And I said, well, that's great. And, but are they actually communicating? Do they actually listen and hear what the other person's saying, or do they just sort of give out the information? So I think in a family business, what's really important is that you do overshare sometimes. Like, what are you thinking? Because what happens is I might be thinking something and I'll say it to one of my kids, but I didn't say it to the other. And then it's like, well, why didn't you tell me? I didn't know that. Well, I thought everybody knew that. Didn't your brother tell you that? So I do think it's important that communication is open and honest, but it's really about listening and hearing. I think that is the big thing. It's really about listening and hearing. And if you could do that, that would take a lot of the pressure off the family.
Right. Yeah. And the same goes for when I sit down with people, and we're going to draw up, employment contracts. And maybe it's for the nephew of one of the uncle or the niece and it's the aunt sitting in front of me, and then they're trying to do it on agreement, but their views about what they're doing and their input to the company varied tremendously. They say, well, we talk to each other all the time.
I know. They talk all the time.
But it's exactly what you said.
Do they communicate?
Do they communicate? And is there acknowledgement? Have things been said expressly, or have people implied things? And in the law, we don't want implication. We want some certainty, right? We want some certainty.
Well, and it even comes down to, again, first generation, it's different because they don't think of all this structure. But as their children get older, is their ability to come into the business a birthright, or do they come into the business with a skill set? And I guess, when kids grow up in the business, they do a little bit of work, but when they're coming in as an employee, these are the type of things that you have to have these conversations with, because if you let one in, why can't you let all them in? Or if you, so what if you allowed a spouse to come in? What about the other spouses? Maybe you like your son's wife, but you don't like your daughter's husband. Right. So this is where you start to have these family squabbles, and this is where governance comes in. I'm sure we'll have a podcast on governance and what that really means. It's just your decision making.
That's right.
It's documented. Here's how you make a decision, and you've all agreed to it. But I do think as a first gen, we tend not to have a lot of governance because it's my way or the highway.
Absolutely. And I do think that these situations make people inherently uncomfortable.
Oh, absolutely.
Talking to you have a daughter-in-law and a son-in-law, and you're going to have a conversation with one of them while, Steve is in and Jane is out.
Yeah.
I mean, that's...
So if you have it written down...
Yeah, that's right.
Then there's no problem.
Then there's no problem. So, or even the dynamics you think about with the kids.
Yeah.
Why his spouse and not my spouse?
Does everybody get to come through with a scholarship?
Yes.
Does all of the grandkids get to...
Yes.
Exactly. What does that look like?
Exactly.
So these are little things that are not, again, you don't necessarily have to have anything legal, but as you start to think about the governance side, and then there's some things that do need to be put in paper through the use of a lawyer. So this podcast is really about just helping.
And we're going to help you. People think about law and family businesses and they think of the obvious legal spheres where the law most often interacts with family businesses, and that's, employment law and labor, corporate law for when you incorporate and getting your founding documents together. But family businesses,
separations, divorces.
So family law, wills and estates. There are so many areas, shareholder disputes. There are so many areas where family businesses intersect or run into the law, and it's important to understand those various points of intersection so that you can anticipate them and anticipate how you're going to react. And it's much better for there to be a document that you can pull out and say, this is how we're going to react because we decided on it, right?
Absolutely. I'm sure that our listeners, anybody who knew a family business can tell you horror stories about uncles who don't speak. Oh, my dad and his brother started a business, or, my grandfather started and my dad and, his brother had a fight. Like, there's lots of stories. So what we want to try to do is to avoid that, because family businesses are the backbone of the world, really. Really. It's not just Canada. It's the whole world. And we really want to see those continue. And only 30% transition to Gen 2. And that is, I think it's a worldwide statistic. And I don't think it's because they don't want to, because they don't know how to. And it becomes complex, and it's easier to sell it than it is to have those discussions.
That's where you need Tammy.
Yeah. And to have those legal agreements in place so that, you're not fighting and you can actually have dinner together.
And I think that the other really, the point that we talk about and that we have very much in common is that it's much easier to come to these decisions about what's going to happen when the happening is a hypothetical.
Absolutely.
Because when the hypothetical becomes a reality,
then it's
very difficult to agree on anything.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, I have a final question that's going to be for both of you, actually. So what excites you most about this new segment, or what are you most looking forward to sharing in this podcast?
Ooh, well, I'm loving the fact I have a co-host who's so smart. And I do think that this segment of the podcast, the legal matters, is so important that I'm hoping that we can avoid some family conflict by saying, hey, I listened to this podcast. Maybe we should talk about this. They're laying the onus on somebody else. I'm really excited about that.
Yeah. And I would start by saying that I'm really excited to work with Tammy. She does some incredible work. Also just an incredible champion of everyone around her. So I'm very excited and honored that you've invited Lerners and me onto this platform with you. But the other thing that I'm hopeful about is that we can really have a positive impact on both the growth and success of these businesses, but also preserving those really important relationships that made the idea to start the business worthwhile in the first place. Absolutely.
So if you want to continue to tune in, it's the third Tuesday of every month. We'll be releasing the Business of Family Matters Legal Edition.
Can't wait.
I know. Me either.
We look forward to seeing you.
Thanks for listening to Family Matters Legal Edition. We hope today's conversation gave you something to think about or talk about in your own family business.
If you enjoyed the episode, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who'd benefit from hearing it.
Have a legal question or topic you'd like us to cover in a future episode? Reach out. We'd love to hear from you.
Until next time, remember, in family business, what's legal is personal. Take care. The information shared in this podcast is for general educational purposes only and is not intended as legal advice. Listening to this podcast does not create a lawyer-client relationship. For advice specific to your situation, please consult a qualified legal professional.